read it. I think it's a little bit disappointing, to be honest. I don't think those recommendations are far enough.
The Ontario Civilian Police Commission has released a list of 37 recommendations to the Windsor Police Service and its board. This after it received 5 complaints from members of the service.
If it comes up, I have an amazing platform and I will talk about it to hopefully help others.
Windsor drag queen Boa lost their bid to win Canada's drag race last night, but they're using their platform to talk about safety within the LGBT+ community. I'm Chris Hensing. Thanks for joining us. A 2-year investigation into the Windsor Police Service and the board that oversees that service is completed. The Ontario Civilian Police Commission found that while the service has much to be proud of, there are a number of systemic issues in the service. It's 72 pages, 37 recommendations. We're going to break down the major points for you tonight. Let's take an overview of this report. It started in 2018 after 5 members of the service complained to the OCPC about a number of issues, ranging from how people are promoted to a potential poisoned workplace environment. After the investigation was launched, the OCPC included how a 911 call from former Police Chief Al Frederick's home was handled. And that's where we start tonight, with new details that we can report. As CBC Windsor was first to report, a 911 phone call was placed on November 12, 2018 from then Police Chief Al Frederick's home. The OCPC today saying that it was a woman who made the call. At no point did Frederick assault, threaten, or intimidate the woman, according to the OCPC's investigation. They say that it was a verbal dispute. Now, the OCPC found everything happened correctly. Windsor Police responded, the board was alerted, and an outside police agency, in this case the OPP, investigated. But it raised 2 systemic issues. The OCPC said that the event should have been made public, quote, at the earliest opportunity. CBC News asked the service about this when we were first made aware of it back in November of 2018. They did not confirm any specific details. In December of 2018, CBC News asked the chief in a year-end interview about the call. He replied saying, quote, no, and that's, I don't know where you got that information, quote. The OCPC said that Frederick's answer exasperated the perceived lack of transparency with the Windsor Police Service. The second systemic issue, a policy on how to investigate a chief or deputy chief at the Windsor Police Service. This is a policy that Police Board Chair and Windsor Mayor Drew Dilkens said that they needed to work on shortly after that 911 call took place. That's in November of 2018. Now, the OCPC today said that the policy needs to be made in September of 2019. That's what they told the board during the interview process of this investigation. Now, a year after that initial call, CBC News followed up, and we were told that that policy was in progress. The OCPC says that CBC News asking about the policy, quote, refocused the board's attention, and that they were waiting for a new chief to put in that policy. We're asked again in March about that draft, and they say that a draft policy is being made on the policy. That was the latest update. Then in April, a policy is released. Dilkens says that it mimics what the Windsor Police Service and board did back in November of 2018. But that continued line of questioning by the media, according to the OCPC, is what prompted the policy to be created. And the report says today that they found the policy currently in place is not good enough. They suggest that a specific agency be selected for these kinds of investigations. And they want to know what role specifically a chief or deputy chief plays in a criminal investigation involving either a chief or a deputy chief of the Windsor Police Service. Now, the report says that the policy needs to be amended and should be part of a larger re-evaluation of the service. A direct quote here: we see this policy as part of a larger re-evaluation of how decisions are made on what matters are dealt with externally and what matters are dealt with internally. We'll have more on that in a moment. Katerina Georgieva joins us now as we take a deeper look at this. We're speaking now of the new chief, Pam Mizuno. The report also had a lot to say about her and gender within the Windsor Police Service. What can you tell us about that?
Well, let's start with the concerns raised around the promotional process. Some referring to the service as a boys' club, some female officers saying that they were passed up for opportunities because of their gender. And while the report acknowledged that past promotional processes were at times suspect, that's a quote, there's no compelling evidence that the current promotional process is corrupt. However, the report still recommends that the service reevaluate that process. It acknowledges that women are underrepresented in the service and recommends the board and service create a new plan to make recruiting women a top priority. And same goes with addressing racial diversity. It also says that the service has yet to prove that officers are truly made accountable for discriminatory conduct. As for Chief Pam Mizuno herself, the report acknowledged that there were accusations that her hiring was an act of tokenism, but the OCPC refutes that completely, giving her a glowing review of her achievements and qualifications, saying that she worked hard to get to where she's at.
Now, Kat, there's been complaints about a poisoned work environment, part of this investigation. What came out of that?
Well, there was a lot said in the report about systemic issues surrounding accommodations. The report said it heard from a number of officers and employees, sometimes in, quote, highly moving emotional terms, how supervisors could respond in belittling or insensitive ways. And these accounts were both historical and current. The report identified major deficiencies in the existing accommodation directive and is calling for a new one to be implemented. As for workplace harassment, the report found that directive to also be deficient, and so the OCPC is calling for a new directive to be created that is fair and transparent, and one that would allow external investigators be brought in whenever necessary. And a draft has already been created moving in that direction.
And another key part of this large report here was taking a look at the role of the board's chair. In this case, that's Mayor Drew Dilkens and board oversight.
Yes, the commission found no evidence whatsoever that the board is corrupt or that the chair acts improperly. But there are still issues. The commission says that when investigators last met with the board had not received any training on its role and responsibilities. So that's one of the recommendations, that training happens as soon as possible. The report says, quote, the lesson here is simply that the board must play a critical role in asking the hard questions required to ensure that the service is not merely checking off the right box or responding to issues in a less than effective way.
Now, this policy and this whole process is a long time coming. We got a response from Mayor Drew Dilkens, the board chair, acknowledging that these recommendations to strengthen the board's oversight, and he also acknowledged that there's room for improvement. How are others responding to this report, Kat?
Well, I spoke with a criminal lawyer, Jake Shen. He's also a former police officer with the Toronto Police Services. He's disappointed. He thought that the recommendations were going to go a lot further than this. And he says internally, this won't be positive for officers within the force who have serious concerns about how things are run. Shen says he had hoped the report would have gone deeper than what it did.
I think this is a wasted opportunity. It could be a wake-up call or a change, a recommendation for all police agencies across Ontario, but unfortunately, it did not go that far, in my opinion.
We also received a statement from Windsor Police Chief Pam Mizuno. She acknowledged that the report points out that the service has implemented some progressive measures that deal with some of the service's historical problems, but more needs to be done. She said, in part, while the service has already undertaken work on many of the issues identified, the recommendations will assist in directing the service's work towards a more respectful, harassment-free workplace that values equity and diversity with appropriate supervision and oversight, and ongoing communication between senior leadership and the service's members. And moving forward, both the police board and the chief promised to carefully review the report and its recommendations. The commission is asking the board and the service to each report on their implementation of the recommendations of the report within a year, Chris.
Thanks, Kat. A lot to take in there. Appreciate that. The CBC's Katerina Georgieva live on set. I want to get back to the re-evaluation that the report says the board and service need to take on. They mentioned it in the context of internal or external investigations, which came up during one matter that the OCPC investigated, where the son of a former police board member got into a physical altercation with an off-duty police officer at a golf course. Now, a previous board member's son was arrested and charged after that altercation, but those charges were dropped. The OCPC said that the Crown's decision not to proceed with the charges was not an unreasonable one. Now, they also found that there was no evidence that the board's chair, Mayor Dilkens, played an improper role in this event, but the OCPC does say that this should have all been handled externally to enhance the appearance of accountability. The report says that it was a failing of the service, that it did not appreciate why the status of the other person involved, a board member's son, compelled a different approach all along. Now, we have more details on that report on our website, cbc.ca/Windsor. At Windsor Morning on Monday, we'll also be diving into the contents of that report and the recommendations. In other news, in just over 4 weeks, Ontario schools are set to reopen under new COVID-19 protocols, but it appears that the province's plans aren't good enough for some. More than 100,000 people have signed a petition calling for smaller class sizes in elementary and middle schools. The unions for teachers and support workers are expressing similar concerns.
We're giving the boards $30 million to hire new staff. More staff equals smaller classrooms. We're flexible. We have to be flexible. We have to be adaptable. And my number one concern is to protect the children and make sure the parents feel comfortable, and we do have the best plan.
Yeah, we've already provided guidance to school boards in the context of using the full footprint of their schools, their gymnasiums and cafeterias. Cafeterias will not be operating as they were in the past. All these spaces will be repurposed for education, to be quite frank. And ultimately, we've encouraged them to be innovative and look for solutions with the context of utilizing spaces in their schools.
Now, the Premier also announced more than $230 million in new funding for early childhood centres in Ontario in partnership with the federal government. Starting on September 1st, daycares across Ontario will be allowed to operate at full capacity. The Greater Essex County District School Board released its draft budget this afternoon, which will go before the board on Tuesday. Its back-to-school plans, well, it mimics what the Ontario government outlined last month, including dividing high school students into cohorts, limiting class sizes to 15 students with alternating schedules. Students in grade 4 to 12 will be required to wear face masks while in school. Nearly $2 million of the funding is accounted for COVID-19 related expenses. Ottawa has upped the ante in the latest trade dispute with the U.S. Chrystia Freeland says Canada will retaliate against Donald Trump's new 10% tariff on Canadian aluminum exports, matching it dollar for dollar. The Deputy Prime Minister called the U.S. action unnecessary, unwarranted, and entirely unacceptable.
At a time when we are fighting a global pandemic, working on both sides of the Canada-U.S. border to prevent loss of life and preserve jobs, a trade dispute is the last thing anyone needs. It will only hurt the economic recovery on both sides of the border.
Freeland says Washington's decision to impose a tariff on Canadian aluminum is, quote, absurd because it will hurt U.S. citizens most. It would raise U.S. prices on many consumer goods, from canned soda and beer to bikes and cars. Even washing machines made at the Whirlpool plant, where the U.S. president made his announcement from, would end up costing more. If the U.S. tax goes into effect as planned on August 16th, Canada will slap those retaliatory tariffs on $3.6 billion worth of U.S. aluminum products by September 16th. A Windsor drag queen opened up about a brutal beating on television last night. Boa has been competing on Canada's Drag Race, a reality show based on the American RuPaul's Drag Race series, but they were eliminated last night. In the episode, they told their story about the incident, which happened after a show in Toronto 5 years ago. Well, they did speak about it to the media at the time. They hope that retelling the story on the platform that this series offers will help others. And a warning here, what you're about to see does contain graphic details and disturbing photos.
The support I got from the community was incredible, and it fueled me to want to speak out about it. There is violence in the queer community, and this needs to stop.
It's been nice. It's been very nice. It was very emotional watching it. There was just so much support. There was a lot of love in the room. They saw I was emotional. I think now it's like I have this platform, and I know that people have been seeing it. I've been getting lots of messages and stuff from people. It feels like I'm doing a good job. Going into Drag Race, I knew that if it comes up, I have an amazing platform, and I will talk about it to hopefully help others. So the topic came up, safety in the community.
A few years ago, I brought someone home. I wasn't into it. I didn't want to have sex with him. We were drinking and he beat me up.
And I just shared my experience, and I really hope that people who watch it, who may be experiencing it, have experienced it, or even know someone who is currently or has experienced it, just knows that they're not alone and uses my story as a way to relate.
I posted a selfie of myself. I said, this happened to me last night. Watch out who you bring home. You never know what happens. Be safe, guys, and take care of each other.
I've always been a very open person, a very open book. Like, what you see is what you get. And because of the amazing response from the community, I feel good about it. And I feel, as an entertainer, as a drag queen, like even Priyanka said, we're like the mascots of the gay community. And that's just one of my stories. And if I'm able to use that story to help others, then I'm more than comfortable talking about it. Just know that you're not alone. Know that there are resources that are out to help you. And you can get through this. You can get through this, and you can heal in your own way.
As you heard there, both spoke about resources and supports that are available for people who may have had similar experiences. Here are some of the resources listed on the Windsor Pride community page for people who have experienced gender-based violence in the community. It's including We Trans, SOS Femme Crisis Line, Hiatus House, and the Sexual Assault Crisis Center. There's also a number of different counseling services available, including Family Services Windsor Essex and the Community Crisis Center. More services are listed on the Windsor Pride community website. Friends and family of a 40-year-old Windsor man killed in a collision back in May are calling for justice. Kamaya Berry died after he was involved in a two-car collision. Today, Berry's family said they've spent the past 3 months trying to get answers from the Ontario Provincial Police on the identity of the other driver. Yesterday, police laid multiple charges against a 34-year-old Chatham woman. Berry's family says 3 months took far too long for charges to be laid, and police should have acted quicker.
We have to fight just to be heard, just to have justice, just to be considered human. We have to fight for our loved ones. And if we don't fight for them, the justice system fails us time and time again.
The OPP says that while it sympathizes with the family for the 3-month wait, some investigations take longer than others. The family also says it had trouble getting in contact with the lead investigator on this case for updates. Police officials tell CBC News they cannot speak to the actions of the investigating officer. A live look outside there at the city of Windsor. Certainly a little warmer today, but just how hot is it going to get for our weekend? Nick Sirkovich with all the details and the forecast coming up. And joining us now for a live look at the weather is Nick Sirkovich. Nick, this may be one of the longest short weeks that I've sort of experienced. No long weekend on the horizon here, but do we got a couple days that are nice?
We do, yeah. Well, at least Saturday. Sunday's going to be a bit of a mixed bag, but you know what? Generally a pretty nice forecast. Now, one thing you might have noticed is the air's been a little fresher. We haven't been bogged down by that humidity. That's changing as well. We're going to see some humidity start to build back in again. We're going to see temperatures start to rise and at least sunshine to kick off the weekend. So I'm going to get to all those details in just a sec. I want to sort of break it down for you. The average daytime high for this time of year, 27.4 degrees. Now, we've spent a lot of the summer above average, so this is a bit of a change. Today hitting just shy of 26 degrees. But where you also notice it is the overnight lows. 15 degrees is what our overnight low was last night. And this because of the drier air and the clear skies as well. Now that's all changing in the Long Ridge. We'll get to that in just a sec. 26 degrees is where we're sitting right now in Windsor. Humidity not making it feel much more than about 28. That comes under clear skies. We're going to see clear skies stick around for tonight. May see some fog patches developing in sort of the outlying areas. That'll burn off pretty quickly tomorrow, though. Lots in the way of sunshine tomorrow. But Sunday morning, we're watching a very weak system push through. That'll bring some cloud cover with it. I think we'll still see some sunny breaks. It'll bring some cloud cover with it, and about a 30% chance of seeing a few spotty showers through the afternoon. So not a big washout, but a few spotty showers. And then as we go into Monday, same deal. Again, we're looking at a couple of waves of weak systems moving through the region. Tonight, down to 12 degrees, this because of the clear skies and also the drier air as well. So a little cooler than what we're used to. By tomorrow, though, temperatures up to 28, 29 degrees across the region. Humidex values, though, tomorrow up to about 33, and that humidity continues into the weekend. The risk for some thunder showers on Monday. Just a bit unsettled for Sunday through Tuesday, but otherwise not a bad-looking forecast. And before we go, the last time I talked to you, you were going camping.
Oh, Nick, I don't know if you want to go there.
Oh, was it that bad?
It rained the entire time.
Oh, I had hopes for you that it would go just a little bit to the north.
Oh, man, It did not go a little bit to the north. I was right on. I was in Wardsville, and like you could watch the radar line as if it like picked me up. But it was a lot of fun, and I say it in jest. I know you can't control it, but you always give us a good look at what's coming. So I did appreciate that because I had the tarp ready.
All right, good to hear.
Good to have smart people around. Thanks, Nick. Enjoy the weekend.
You too.
Now, with this border closure that's currently in place, it's not enough to stop a local teen from finding a way to start school in the States, but it does shift the journey. That's next. A Windsor teen with a nearly full ride scholarship is preparing to go to school in Ohio. Not even the pandemic will stop the competitive swimmer from reaching his goals. But as the CBC's Tamina Aziz reports, the border closure is making it hard for his parents who can't go with him.
At 18, Windsorite Luca Chandusi has high hopes to compete in the 2024 Summer Olympics. But first, he wants to get his degree. He starts his first year at the University of Findlay in Ohio next week.
I feel pretty excited to leave home, get to be a little bit more independent.
His mom feels a bit more nervous, especially since the border restrictions prevent her and her husband from dropping Luca off to campus.
We're not essential, and he's allowed to cross the border, but we can't, and he's a freshman, so I just want to bring my son over there, move him in, and get him all settled in.
It's not the school year she envisioned for her son, but they say they're not worried about the pandemic south of the border because of the safety measures the university has put in place.
I'm not nervous about the pandemic because I know the school is taking everything well. They have everything prepared for all the students.
They have to wear masks while they're outside, too. So if they can't social distance, they have to wear the mask all the time. They have to wear the mask in class, in the buildings. So I feel comfortable with that, with their protocols.
Luca can't drive himself to the university, but his parents found a way to get him there.
We're allowed to bring him to the border and drop him off there. So we do have a transportation service that's picking him up at the border.
She says she's sad that she may not see her son for the rest of the year.
I'm already preparing that he's not coming home for Christmas.
But she says she may fly to Ohio from Toronto to visit. Tamina Aziz, CBC News, Windsor.
Now, next weekend is the Port Huron float down, but officials, they're asking people not to attend this year. The border is still closed and COVID-19 risks, they still remain. They say that if you do plan to participate, wear a life jacket, bring a waterproof bag with some ID in it. Make sure to have a float plan with someone who is not participating that can file a report if you aren't at your check-in spot in time. Never go alone. And don't drink alcohol. Remember to wear a face mask and physically distance, dress for the weather and cold water, and make sure that you stay close to the shore. It's 6:29 p.m. and that's it for us here at CBC Windsor News. For more on our top story tonight, the OCPC report about Windsor Police and the Windsor Police Services Board, you can go to our website at www.cbc.ca/Windsor. It's Friday. I apologize. Thanks for watching. Thanks for sticking with us this week. And I hope that you and your family are able to enjoy the weekend that we have ahead of us.